When Yazid had taken the oath of allegiance for the caliphate from the people, he wrote a letter to Walid ibn Utbah informing him of the death of Muawiyah. In a short letter he wrote, "Now then, ask for the oath of allegiance from Hussein, Abdullah ibn Umar, and Abdullah ibn Zubair, and do not give them respite until they do so." When Walid read about the death of Muawiyah, he was alarmed and the news disturbed him. Thus, reluctantly, he summoned Marwan ibn Hakam. Marwan was the governor of Medina before Walid, and hence, when Walid became governor, he hated and abused him while separating himself from him for a long time, until the news of the death of Muawiyah and the demand of allegiance from the people reached him. This being difficult for him, he called for Marwan. When Marwan came, Walid read the contents of the letter to him. When Marwan heard it, he recited, "Verily, we are Allah's, and verily unto Him shall we return." And he prayed for blessings to be bestowed upon Muawiyah. When Walid asked his advice regarding the issue, Marwan replied, "In my opinion, before announcing the death of Muawiyah, summon these persons this very moment and ask them to swear the oath of allegiance for Yazid. If they refuse, cut off their necks before they learn about Muawiyah's death. For if they became slightly aware of this, each one of them will go away to different places and start revolting, and shall claim themselves eligible for the caliphate." Walid called for Abdullah ibn Amr ibn Usman, who was just a lad, to summon Imam Hussein alayhi salam and Abdullah ibn Zubair to meet him. It was a time when Walid usually did not meet anyone. Abdullah ibn Amr saw them seated in the mosque and conveyed Walid's message to meet them. They told him to go back and that they would soon follow him. Abdullah ibn Zubair turned towards Imam Hussein alayhi salam and said, "In your opinion, what is the reason for Walid to call us to meet him at this unusual hour?" Imam replied, "I presume that their leader of rebels has died, and he has called us to swear the oath of allegiance to Yazid before the news spreads among other people." Abdullah too consented to it and asked as to what he would do. The Imam replied that he would go to meet Walid accompanied by some youth. Then he called for a group from among his relatives and said, "Lift up your arms, for Walid has called me at this hour and might force me to do that which I detest. I do not trust him, thus remain with me. When I go inside to meet him, you all sit at the door, and when you hear my voice raised, barge inside to defend me." When the Imam alayhi salam came to Walid, he saw Marwan sitting with him. Walid gave the news of the death of Muawiyah to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and he recited, "Verily we are Allah's, and verily unto Him shall we return." Then Walid read the letter of Yazid and his order to get the pledge of allegiance for him. Imam replied, "I understand that you shall not agree if I swear the oath of allegiance in secrecy and privately until and unless I do so publicly, so that people may be informed about it." Walid replied in the affirmative. Imam Hussein alayhi salam said, "In that case, wait until dawn." Walid replied, "As you desire. You may go in Allah's refuge until you come to me with the people." Marwan said, "If Hussein goes away from your midst without swearing the oath of allegiance, you will never have the power to ask the allegiance again until much bloodshed between him and you. Hence, imprison him till he swears the oath of allegiance, or else cut off his head." Imam Hussein alayhi salam arose and said, "O son of Zarqa, will you dare to kill me? Verily, you have lied and have sinned." Saying this, Imam Hussein alayhi salam came outside and returned back with his men to his house. Then Marwan turned towards Walid and said, "You disobeyed me. By Allah, you will never be able to lay your hands upon him." Walid replied, "Woe be to your soul, which is your own enemy, O Marwan. You have advised me regarding that which would ruin my religion. By Allah, I do not like to acquire the wealth and dominion over which the sun rises and sets if it involved the killing of Hussein. Glory be to Allah, I should kill Hussein simply because he refused to swear the oath of allegiance? By Allah, I am convinced that whoever is associated with the killing of Hussein, on the day of Qiyamah, his deeds will weigh less in scales near Allah." Marwan said, "If this is what you think, then whatever you did is quite right." Then he returned back, displeased with him. Ibn Shahr Ashub writes in Manaqib that when Imam Hussein alayhi salam went to meet Walid and read the contents of the letter, he said that he would not swear the oath of allegiance, bay'ah. Marwan, who was present there, said, "Swear the oath of allegiance to the commander of the faithful," meaning Yazid. Imam Hussein replied, "Woe to you! Verily, you have attributed falsehood to the believers. Who has made him the commander of the faithful?" Hearing this, Marwan arose and unsheathed his sword and said, "Call the executioner and tell to behead him before he leaves from here, and the responsibility of his blood will be on my neck." When voices were raised, 19 men from among the family of Imam barged in with daggers, and Imam Hussein alayhi salam went away with them. When this news reached Yazid, he deposed Walid and appointed Marwan as the governor of Medina. After this, Imam Hussein alayhi salam and Abdullah ibn Zubair left for Mecca, and Abdul Rahman ibn Abu Bakr and Abdullah ibn Umar were left untouched. As regards Abdullah ibn Zubair, when he received Walid's message, he replied that he would soon come. Then he went to his house and hid himself. Walid followed him thereafter and saw that he had gathered his friends and had segregated himself. Walid pressed him, but Abdullah said that he wanted respite to think over. Then Walid sent his slaves to Abdullah, who went and abused him, saying, "You will have to come to us, or else he will slay you." Abdullah said, "I am weary because of your compulsion. Give me respite, so that I may dispatch one of my men to the governor to ask what he wants from me." Then he sent his brother, Ja'far ibn Zubair. Ja'far went to Walid and said, "May Allah's mercy be upon you. Lift your hands off Abdullah, for you have frightened him. Tomorrow he will come to you, Allah willing. Hence, command your envoys to return back." Walid sent someone to call back his messengers, who returned back. On the same night, Abdullah, accompanied by his brother Ja'far, left for Mecca, taking the road of Farah, and no one else accompanied them. In the morning, when Walid was informed about his flight, he sent a slave of Bani Umayyah with 80 horsemen, who galloped behind him, but could not trace him, hence returned back. And that day they remained busy in the affair of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and dispensed with him until the night approached. In the morning, Imam Hussein alayhi salam came out of his house to hear the reports from the people when he came across Marwan. Marwan said, "O Aba Abdullah, I desire your goodwill. Thus accept what I say until you reach the road of righteousness." Imam told him to say what he wanted to. Marwan replied, "I say that you swear the oath of allegiance to Yazid, for it will be better for your life of this world and the hereafter." Imam Hussein alayhi salam replied, "Verily we are Allah's, and verily unto Him shall we return. Peace upon Islam if the nation gets trapped in the leadership of Yazid, for I have heard my grandfather say that caliphate is forbidden upon the children of Abu Sufyan." Thus they started talking to each other, and their correspondence increased. In the end, Marwan was offended and left.